So what's going on in America? You know, it's time to have a conversation, especially those who all have a platform. I think you have an obligation to step up and have a conversation on what's going on in America. So, I'll be straight. Black lives, white lives, brown lives, blue lives, they all matter in America. But let me be clear. The mere fact that somebody is saying that right now we want to focus that black lives matter, that does not take away that white lives, brown lives, blue lives don't matter. Right now we want to have the conversation to say, hey, look, black lives matter. It's not coming from a racist standpoint, but we're saying that there's some Americans, i.e. some police officers, and I hate doing the generalization because we learn in English literature that when you start generalizing, that's a bad way to do business. But right now, we want to say that, hey, we want to put an emphasis on black lives because there are some folks that think that black lives don't matter. But remember, I preface that all lives matter. And those of us who have a platform, you have an obligation to step up and say that all lives matter. But right now, we need to have a discussion. You know, and I've sat back and watched on social platforms the back and forth, which is good. Dialogue is good. And we need to have dialogue. So, but there's no way to where dialogue should come to where it should come to be confrontational. But I do understand that, you know, it is said, many scholars tell us that, hey, protest is a good thing. Peaceful protest is the way to go about doing this thing. But we have to have a conversation. We have to take our heads out of the sands and have a real conversation. Because something has to give. And there's a sea change that's going on across, not only in America, but in the world right now. And I really believe this is the time the momentum, the pendulum is beginning to swing, and we got to follow this thing through. Now, for almost 3 decades, I've served this great nation. And I've worked with folks from every culture around the world. And so I understand what biases are, what biases become. But we have to make sure we respect everybody's culture. And we all must get along. America, we've been here before. We've done this. We can do this. And we have to. Because I can tell you that generation that's coming behind us, they won't change. And as I see the demonstrations that are going on across the world, in essence, it's just not black Americans, but instead it's white Americans, it's brown Americans, it's Asian Americans. It is a true melting pot of what Lady Liberty stands for. This is what America is about. But we gotta have the conversation, we gotta have the dialogue. A true dialogue. Now some folks, we can't change. And the only changing that there's no way about changing them until they go meet their maker, and because we all got one judgment. But I'm reminded that Christ tells us that the greatest commandment is to love one another. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. If we could just focus on that, I think we could move forward. Everybody has to start. Everybody has to first focus on themselves. Emulate what you expect from others, first and foremost. And we must understand and we have to respect other folks' perspectives. And that's really a disconnect. Our failure to respect other folks' cultures and viewpoints and trust and believe, having served for so many years and being around and interfacing with other folks' cultures, you'd be surprised. Oftentimes, they just don't understand your culture. It's just like in the Department of Defense, we have observances for many different cultural events. And in every February, we would have Black History Month. And as an African American leader, I would make sure to stress the point, this is not so much for those African American service members because they understand this culture. This is for all those other folks who's not a part of this culture so you can understand this culture. And I have learned to realize that oftentimes, many of the other cultures don't mean no ill will. They just don't understand their culture. Until an explanation is given, until you have the conversation, these are the do's and don'ts, dislikes in this culture. So cultural training is also required. But we have to move forward. This train has left the station, and we have to move forward. The racist rhetoric, it is not going to solve our problems. And the people who have to solve these problems, I think Michael Jackson said it best. The man in the mirror. Man, woman that looks in the mirror has to solve these problems. Those individuals have those solutions. First of all, we got to respect others. And we have to acknowledge and be willing to look from somebody else's viewpoints. Diversity is our strength in America, bar none. Diversity is our strength in America, bar none. I'm reminded of a quick story on perspectives, seeing others in their viewpoints, because I think it's very important. There was a guy who was walking up. He was looking, he wanted directions for the big brown building. So he was unsure. So as he walked up, he ran into this drunkard on the corner. And he said, "Hey, sir, I'm a little lost. Can you give me directions to the big brown building?" And the drunkard said, "Absolutely, I can give you directions to the big brown building. You have to walk up 3 blocks, turn left at the ABC store, then walk up 2 more blocks, and then you're going to turn right at Smith's Winery. And when you get to Smith's Winery, look up, and you'll see the big brown building." "Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." And so off he went. But he still was somewhat a little lost. And so he ran into the priest. And he said, "Father, I'm a little lost, but I'm looking for the big brown building. Can you help me?" The father said, "Yes, my son. That's easy. You want to walk up 3 blocks and turn left at the synagogue. And then you want to walk up 3 blocks and you'll see the cathedral. And look up and you'll see the big brown building." "Well, thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Well, son, hope you find it." And off he goes. Still yet a little lost and dismayed, he runs into a cop. He said, "Officer, I'm looking for the big brown building. Can you help me?" Say, yes, easy. Good citizen, easy. You want to walk up 3 blocks, turn left, and you'll see City Hall. Once you get to City Hall, walk up 2 more blocks and look up at the Attorney General's building, and you'll see the big brown building. Now, think about that. What just happened here? You had the drunk that he asked directions from. You had the priest who he asked directions from. And he had the cop who he had directions from. Each of them gave him directions based upon their viewpoints. Each one of them gave perspectives based upon, they gave the same directions, go up 3 blocks, turn left, and then go 2 more blocks and look up and it's there. But they gave different perspectives based upon what they know, based upon their background, their culture. Well, so is it in life. So is it in the world. This is why we must respect others' cultures. This is so important. And we got to have this conversation because we're here. We only get one planet and it has to be shared. Racism is a taught behavior. It is not a behavior that you're born with. It is a taught behavior. And I wish we all could just take a walk to a few miles north of where I'm currently living is a place called Arlington National Cemetery. If we could take a walk up there, I can show you individuals that don't look like me, that took a bullet to protect me in combat operations so that I may live today. But remember, they don't look like me. But they gave the ultimate sacrifice. And this is a conversation that we must have in America. Those of you who have a platform, you have an obligation to lead the conversation. Because people that you have influence over, they will follow you. They take your word as the gospel. And America, the world, is counting on you. Thank you for your time and your patience in listening to what I had to say.